First thing, thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I didn't really know exactly what interests you, so I prepared something that has a little bit of community in it and a fair amount of Bacula systems in it, so you can see where Bacula systems is going. It's marked confidential. What that means is we would really appreciate it if you don't give all this information to our competitors, okay? And our competitors are the big guys, Symantec, EMC, Tivoli, etc. Also, could somebody tell Peter, I enjoyed his presentation a lot. Congratulations for his accomplishments in becoming, getting certified by Red Hat. And I think he's a nice guy too. Anyway, basically I'm going to tell you, since I'm one of the principal developers of Bacula and the CTO, I'll tell you what we're planning, what we've done for 2012 with Bacula systems, and what we're planning for 2013. Yeah, I had my finger in the wrong place. Okay, so many of you probably already know this. The community version up until July 2009 was the community version, and at that time what we branched off was Bacula Enterprise 2.6, okay? And we continued the development stream down along the side. This explains a little bit of the differences between them. And the main thing to know now is that community version 5.2, which is the current version that's out there, has gone to a large extent into Enterprise 6.0, which was released in March of 2012. And the development goes into both of them, but not all the development goes into the community version, not all the development. Anything that's submitted by the community goes into the community version. Some things that Bacula Systems does goes into the community version. Some things that we do not go into the community version. In fact, a lot of things, at some time in the future, when they're not differentiating factors, they will probably go back into the community version. So, this thing is to show the basic Bacula systems strategy, and it's a little hard to explain without a pointer, but the basic idea is that this big bubble with the hash marks in it in sort of a blue-gray color represents high-end commercial software. And inside of it is the basic Bacula systems or Bacula community code. And it's a smaller bubble. Why? Because it doesn't do everything the big enterprise versions do, or the enterprise software do. But around it, we have a bunch of little plugins, bubbles, and add-ons and things like that we've been developing. At the beginning of 2012, I think there were only one or two of them that were actually implemented. The ones that are not currently implemented are in yellow if they're in process of being implemented, in green if they're already implemented and in Bacula Systems, Bacula Enterprise, and red if they're planned for additional implementation that hasn't started yet, okay? In addition to all those things around Bacula, which one day will make it grow hopefully much larger than commercial software, we have some things in the center which are GUI, graphical user interface, that we're improving. We're spending a lot of time and effort on it, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. And then the square boxes represent things that are not part of Bacula, but they're technologies we know that some of you use and that we need to get the information, the technology into our company so that we can provide it or at least recommend it to our customers. So, as I mentioned earlier, Bacula Enterprise 6 was released in March of this year, and it had a very large number of changes in it. Many of those changes were community submissions, okay, and they all went into that version after they've been out in the community for quite some time. We made a number of BAT GUI improvements. Those also went back into the community. We made a number of Postgres SQL performance enhancements, which are also in the community. New security checks, mostly to make sure that users can't do SQL injection. Administrators can't do SQL injection. We implemented new efficient pruning algorithm, new additions to the plugin interface, faster CRC algorithm, which was actually a community contribution, and improved hash for backing up hard links, because when there's hard links, you have to keep track of all the hard links you found for a particular file while you're backing them up, so that you make sure you don't back up multiple instances of the same file. Many bug fixes and a lot of code cleanup, and all of that's listed here is also in the community version. So, things that were not in the community version are listed here. There's a feature in Bacula 6 that allows you to restart jobs that fail. Typically, not all jobs that fail can be restarted, but ones that have communication line drops and things like that, if we consider it a safe fail, in other words, if we consider that the data has been correctly written to the volume, then you can restart it. You can also do stop a job. It's much like a cancel. The job stops and it doesn't run anymore, and then you can do a restart. And when you do a stop of the job, it always allows you to restart it. This is very important for backing up large files. Sometimes they take, let's say you have a 2 terabyte file you're backing up, and the communication line drops when you've put all but the last 65K in. Well, under the old system, you'd have to restart the job and re-back up all that data. With the current system, it just picks up where it left off. I won't go into all the things there, but you can see we added a lot of, this year, or up to March, we added a lot of different additional plugins that are very important for enterprise-like things. Here are things that I've listed that we've either already done in the second quarter, going to do already done in the third quarter, and planning for the fourth quarter. Okay, and so we've implemented a single mailbox restore. Okay, that was released in the second quarter. Oracle plugin, PostgreSQL plugin. We've implemented a new way to back up NetApp files, okay, NetApp filers, where it's particularly useful if they have many millions of files, like 20, 30 million files. The time it takes to walk through the file system to figure out what you want to back up for an incremental backup it takes a very long time, sometimes a couple hours. And by using NetApp snapshot technique and some of their internal tools, we're able to get instantly a list of all the files that we need to back up for an incremental backup. So it's a nice feature. It kind of replaces our NDMP plugin. NDMP is a nice protocol, and it's about 30 to 40% faster than backing up through NFS or CIFS, but it's not a very nice protocol for doing a file level restore. We've added, we're in the process of adding block-align volume format. I don't know of any other commercial vendor. There may be one out there that does this. And basically the data comes in, and instead of being mixed with metadata, that is information about the file and the size and the time and dates and all that, it's stripped off so that that metadata goes into one file and the physical data goes into another file that's aligned on block boundaries. Well, what good is that? If you have an underlying file system, or if you have one of these boxes that do deduplication, it means it can do deduplication the best possible way, because everything's in there and there's no metadata or header files or other information in there that confuses the deduplication algorithms. We're adding a GUI interface to bweb that will allow you to create and modify Bacula configuration files. Okay? These are all enterprise-only features. And probably we'll have an SAP plugin in first quarter 2013. Here's a list of things that I got from our salesmen, of features that they would like, that their customers would like, and that will help them sell more. And on the list, all the ones with the little green dots out in front are ones that are on our roadmap for 2013. And the ones in red are things that we haven't yet scheduled, but are very interesting to us. And I'll be adding to this list a list that Radek gave me today, or will give me presented to me today, of things that he needs here to be able to sell into the public market. So we're interested in doing all these things if we can. Oops, I didn't fit. Okay. What is our main, if you will, strategy from a development standpoint for 2013? Well, it's the same as we've had for the last few years, and that is to differentiate as much as we can the community version and the enterprise version. If you were community users, you wouldn't like to hear that. The problem is for companies like Bacula Systems and companies like Inteos, it's impossible to earn a living if you don't differentiate that between the community and the enterprise. We found that out in the first 2 years of Bacula's history, because the source code was identical between the two, and we found it was very hard to sell support only. And so today we sell support plus features that are not available in the community version. And all the features that are not available in the community version are features that usually that we developed ourselves, or that we paid for, or that some special developer that works closely with us has contributed to the enterprise version only. Okay. We'll continue adding plugins, lots of them, and we'll continue adding new features. Okay. Probably new features like the aligned volume format. Okay. We're strengthening our development team for 2013. We've now got on board a sysadmin for us, which will take a lot of load off our current developers that will do builds and all the other administrative things that don't require C++ programming skills. So that'll help us a lot. And we're going to have a new core developer in this year as well. So that will help speed up the development of new features. And another thing I'll talk about a little bit later is completing our MSP, Managed Service Provider offerings. Main I've grouped what we're doing for 2013 into main categories. There's a little bit of overlap from some of them. I'll explain it. And then within them, I've listed some sub-items that we're going to do. One is we need to do deduplication. Okay? And one of the first ways is the line volume format, which creates a deduplication-friendly file, okay, or storage of the data. Another way is to do deduplication for communication line transfers. That will come up again down here, so I'll explain it a little bit more. And then we're talking about doing built-in deduplication within Bacula, both on the client side, that's out in the file daemon, and on the storage side, on the server side. So the storage daemon and the file daemon both will have some sort of deduplication software in it. Okay. Another big item for us is mobile and remote backup. Mobile, right now, Bacula is not very good at mobile backup. What do I mean by that? If you have a laptop that's out there someplace on the internet, okay, first of all, probably you want your data encrypted, and you can do that with Bacula, but it's a little bit slow. Then you want your data compressed so it moves faster, okay, which we don't do today. We will do by the end of 2013 or even before. And you probably want your data deduplicated, sort of like rsync, if you're familiar with that, so that you're passing the least amount of data. And then a laptop can hook up for 10 minutes, and you can probably back up all the files he needs to back up. Whereas today it may take him a half hour, and if the line is not a good line, he may not complete the backup. And so I've talked about most of those things. The other one is CDP, which is continuous data protection. On a laptop, oftentimes you want to, when you modify a file, you want to have it backed up, let's say immediately. Doesn't mean within a second, but it means you might want it automatically transferred to another second hard disk. And then within a certain period of time, say 10 minutes, if you're connected, you might want to back up to the central site. So we'll be adding some features like that as well. GUI improvements is going to be a big feature for us. Basically, with community, doing GUI interfaces was not something that was too interesting, because it's GUI web-based interfaces and things like that are actually rather difficult to program, and it consumes a lot of time. But for commercial applications, for going into enterprises, it's essential, especially if you have Windows sysadmins who are not familiar, or let's say don't have the habit of using a command line interface, okay? So we really need to have it, and we'll be doing, by January of 2013, we'll have a configuration GUI. It's working very nicely. It's integrated with bweb, and we'll freeze the features in the next week or two. We'll not immediately, but shortly, be able to do auto discovery, e-discovery some people call it, where it can automatically find your tape drives and propose to you different devices and things like that. That's important. And then we'd like to improve the bweb interface. We also have plans to do a restore GUI. Now, what's a restore GUI? We have plenty of plugins, okay? But the problem is there's not much communication between a plugin and Bacula and the user. For example, let's say you want to restore an MS SQL database, and you want to restore that database not to the last time you backed it up, but in some point in time prior to that. Well, to do that, you need some way to interact with the operator or the user, the person that's doing the restore, to say, here's a whole list of things that this plugin knows how to do. what do you want to do? And you need to put it up in a nice graphical way. It then, depending on what the user selects, or the person doing let's say the sysadmin selects, then the plugin will also tell Bacula, I need this and this and this information, or this list of files, or this kind of file, and then Bacula will send it everything it needs. Okay? Today, we don't have that kind of interface, and once we get it in, we'll be able to do some really nice things, customizing the user interface for each plugin that we have. And in a way, it would be programmable. So when you develop, if somebody like Radek develops a plugin, he'll be able to pass this information to Bacula and get it back as if it was a native part of Bacula. And I guess this is the part, the very last item on there is what we need to do for our MSPs. We need to document the interface that exists with Bacula, and maybe even turn it into some kind of API where you can, let's say you're an MSP and you want to provide a service for your customers so that users can restore their own files. Okay. Well, they usually have what they call panels that they use, and very special systems of graphical user interface. In order to program those and make them work, they need some interface to Bacula. Typically, it's through vConsole, and they need to know how to do things they need to do to get backups and restores working from a user standpoint. In other words, it's a means of letting them write their own graphical user interfaces to drive Bacula. And then that'll give people, anybody, the ability to not use bweb, but write the same thing. And one of the things we want to do for our customers is proactive monitoring. If any of you have seen a Bacula Systems contract or have one, we have something called BS Report, which we ask users to run, which scans the system looking for components and things that are related to Bacula. And it's very useful for us in doing support and finding problems. For example, it will return to us your PostgreSQL configuration, and we can see immediately if the PostgreSQL is improperly configured. And we want to do another one that'll just present us with alerts, things that are problems, so that either the user himself or us or both will be alerted early when problems are detected. For example, let's say we see you're running out of disk space where you're storing your volumes. We'd like to be alerted. Or your PostgreSQL database is taking way too long to do certain operations. We would like to be notified so that we don't, so that we can tell the customer. And for gold customers, we're thinking about offering a support contract as part of our contract that will have a third party monitor and tune the PostgreSQL database, because when you're running 2,000 jobs a night, keeping your Postgre database well tuned is extremely important. And then I have a whole series of pet projects for me that I would like to do. Some of them will get done, some of them won't. I won't go through all of them, but they're all interesting. Fortunately, there are people like Radek who have similar ideas, so I may get a little help in getting some of my pet projects done. That's the end, and I'm within my time frame very nicely, so thank you very much for coming. If anybody has, thank you. If anybody has any questions, I have a few minutes remaining in the time allocated to me. I'll be happy to answer them. I think I see somebody. I have a bright light in my eyes, so just don't hesitate to stand up or yell or do something. Did you have a question? No? Yeah, you. Okay, well, you raised your coat. Your beer. No one has any questions. Okay, well, enjoy your evening, and nice to meet you. Or come up and meet me if you would like. And so, thanks again.